Okay, great. So it's awesome to be here, guys. I'm just going to go straight into it because of time. Danny, please do help keep me to time. Drop me a message if I'm going over, if I've gone too far over. So we're going to be talking about right to become an authority. Just checking my mic here, it's fine. Right to become an authority. And obviously, I will share somewhat about myself as well, and why it is that I guess Danny's asked me to share here about writing to become an authority. I've written 5 books and I've been showcased in 3 anthologies. And it's been an amazing journey to be able to do that. My first book was Overcome and Rise Above: How to Turn the Downside of Your Challenges into the Upside of Renewing Your Life. And it really stemmed from my story. And I'm just sharing a few things here, guys, just to basically say, okay, can you dismiss the cookies? Let me see. Hide. Is it showing? Oh, sorry. I didn't even see that was showing there. Thank you very much for that. And is it still presenting? It's come off present mode. I just need to put it back on present mode, guys. And it's been doing that has helped me to do quite a few things that I didn't think I would be able to do. It just started off with me writing a book to share my journey. So to give you a little snippet of my journey and what got me on this pathway, I was in an abusive marriage for a period of time, and it sent me down a very dark road of no longer knowing my identity, not recognizing who I was as an individual. It really, really tore me to shreds. During this marriage, I also ended up having a tumor. And I was told that the right side of my face was going to be paralyzed. And in this picture, I just took this picture because this was the only picture I could really come across that really kind of showed the sadness of where I was at that period in time. I was married to someone that I basically called Jekyll and Hyde. He had this absolutely lovely way about him, but at the same time, behind doors, there was an absolute different side to him. And I'm talking about verbal abuse, mental abuse, and physical abuse. And it took me down a path of attempting suicide. I attempted to take my life. And really, it got me to a place of, I guess, self-realization at some point, in realizing, wow, I nearly took my life because of an individual that was basically pulling my strings, that was allowed to determine my mental capacity, my mental state, and could have taken me away from my children by the decision that I made. And I was able to pull away from that by having a supportive network around me, my church, my community, my family, because they didn't know what was going on that whole period of time until it really hit rock bottom. And then from there, I got involved in personal development. I dived headfirst in personal development. I ended up being a train driver whilst learning about personal development, and went back to my love of reading and journaling. And I guess that was my way of kind of, I guess, escape, if that makes sense. And so whilst driving the train, that's when I wrote my first book. A cousin said to me, why are you not sharing about, your experiences? I was as well parenting a child with special needs. And she said, a lot of people are out there waiting to learn from your pain, waiting to learn from the journey that you went through. And I thought, nah. And I remember having a conversation with a lady once, and I realized I started to share a lot of tips with her and a lot of strategies that I used to help myself, because she was in a similar situation that I was previously. And I realized, actually, I do have something that I can share. So I wrote my first book. And by writing my first book, before I knew it, my children's school was asking me to be a parent governor at the school, became a parent governor. And then they said, listen, we would like you to speak to parents at the school. And then I started doing workshops, and it kind of grew from there. So this is me receiving the day that I got the first copy of my book. Had a massive book launch. You can see in the background, there were tons of books there, because it was like a lot of people by now had kind of found out what had happened to me. So for instance, in my family, and my family was a huge family, and I guess it really opened the door to what happened in my life following after that. And that's the reason why I'm sharing this, because when writing, sometimes we're not thinking about what this story that we're sharing can actually do. right? And so when I'm sharing stuff, I'm just sharing it, guys, because I want you to be open to the many doors that your book could actually open. Do not underestimate the power of your message. One thing that I tend to say is that a message not shared, a story not shared is a message not heard, and a life not saved. The workshops that I started to do ended up getting the attention of the late Her Majesty the Queen, and I was able to get a letter of commendation. I went on to doing workshops, working in writing articles for magazines, being showcased on the TV, doing radio interviews, and then just hosting my own events. It went to me winning awards, whether it be Performance Coach of the Year, Speakers Awards, Authors Awards. It went on to me speaking on numerous stages in countries that I never thought I would have the ability to. Guys, I want you to hear where my story was. My story was someone that attempted to take her life because I didn't think that my life was valued anything. I didn't think that my message was valued anything. But there's a way of being able to look at that mess and actually see the message that comes from the mess, right? And so even as you're writing, I am very, for some of you, what you're writing may be different things. It may be coming from a place of your pain, and you're turning that pain into a passion. For some of you, it may be that you are writing, right, to be showcased. And I'm going to come to that in a minute, actually, the reason why you're writing your book, because I believe that is very important. I've been able to work with some amazing people: Sharon Lecter of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, Andy Harrington, John DiMartini, Dr. John DiMartini, and Bob Berg, the Go Giver. Some of you might know or may have heard of him. And guys, again, it's because I'm remembering that I actually was someone that nearly took my life because of what somebody else was inflicting on me, and because of who somebody else was painting the picture of who I was or was not. And these are just some of the authors that I've been privileged to help also write their stories and get their content out there, right? So enough of me. I want to go into content. That was just a quick snippet, just if in case you're wondering, why is it that Danny has asked me to come and speak? So you can kind of get an idea of my journey and the doors that have been opened for me by writing a book. That was the first step. Me writing a book, that was the first step of me being anything or becoming a mentor or a speaker. And so I'm saying that to say you have no idea where your book could lead you to. And so I help my clients with what I call the Your Book and Beyond formula. And it goes through writing, first gaining clarity of who your ideal reader is, your content, the creativity. What are the creative ideas that you can put in the book to make the book different? How are you going to captivate your audience, captivate your reader? The canvas, the whole layout, everything that leads up to the publishing of the book. And then this is where we go to the beyond stage, where it's about the money-making strategy around the book. Because so many times we write and we think, okay, great, I published the book on Amazon and I'm going to make money. That is not how it works. And so it's about looking beyond. What are the things that I can create beyond my book? How can I utilize the positioning of becoming an author to get my products out there, or get whatever it is that I want? Maybe I want to speak on the stages. What is it that I want from me actually writing a book? And that is the first thing that we're going to dive into. And then obviously I also cover the launch mode mastery. And this is about helping people to, do a phenomenal launch event. And obviously we're not going to have time to go into all of this, but two areas that I'm going to really tap into that you can be able to take some things from and implement straight away. We're going to be looking at the clarity section, and we're going to be looking at the content section, because I believe these two areas are very, very important when it comes to the writing of your book. And guys, obviously, when you get to points where you feel like dropping a message in the chat or anything like that, do feel free to. So we're going to speak about clarity. And if I'm going too fast, please do let me know as well. I just want to give you as much value tonight as I possibly can. So when you talk about clarity, one of the mistakes that I tend to see authors make at time is that they go in and say, yes, I want to write a book, but there's no clarity around it. There's no clarity around the process. There's no clarity around, why do I want to write this book? Who is going to be my target audience? How is it that I want to use the book? or utilize it for my business or my brand, right? And that's a common mistake that I tend to see individuals make. And so I look at the primary objective. And so even as you're here, what is the primary objective for your book? Why is it that I'm writing the book? What do I want the book to do for me? So if for some of you, if you want to drop in the chat, why is it that you're writing the book? What reason did you have why you wanted to write the book? Is it that, you believe that you have a powerful story to share? Okay, and that is absolutely great. If it's if it's a fact that you have a powerful story to share, then you need to ask yourself, who is the audience for this story? It can't just be that I have a powerful story to share. It also needs to be, who is my ideal audience? Is it mothers? Is it single mothers? Is it people that maybe struggle with health? Like my story, because even if you're not a mentor, a coach, a speaker, your story still targets a specific audience. Yes, you would obviously you want as many people to hear your story, right? Because it's a powerful story. And yes, it may be a story that can impact everyone. However, when you're writing, you need to have a specific target audience in mind. It is very, very important. It will really help how your message is conveyed. It will really help you in how you craft that message, because you're writing with that individual in mind. It's quite similar to business. When I'm speaking to my business clients, I'm saying, if you're creating a business and you want it to be successful, you want to make sure you're creating the business with your avatar in mind. Who is your avatar? What are their needs, desires, and pain points? And I'm going to come to that in a minute. What are the things that they're looking to hear? Because you want to be asking yourself these questions. It will really help you as well to navigate your story. Because for some of us, we're in our 40s, some of us in our 20s, some in our 50s. Everybody has lived a life, right? And sometimes when you're writing, you come to that difficult place of, my story is so massive. How am I going to put all of this into a book? And you're absolutely right. So in order to help you navigate your story and the different areas of your story to showcase in the book, it's then very important to have an idea of what bits of my story will fit the audience that I want the book to attract, right? So when you look at why you're writing your story, you have to think about the fact that you don't just want your book to land in a pile of other books sitting on the shelf, as we say, doing shelf development. You don't want it to just be another book out there, because as we know, yes, there's a lot of authors coming up in this day and age. Yes, some people may feel like the market is getting saturated with all of these different voices, but guess what? Every story has a USP. Every story has a unique selling point about it. Yes, you may have gone through a similar situation as someone else. However, the way that you went through it, the way that you dealt with it is unique to you. Your voice is unique to you. So never ever say somebody else has written about that, so I can't write about it. No, your voice, your message, the way that you experience what you experience is going to be completely different to a different reader, right? You could read so many books that talk about the same topic, but the message is different. And so I want you to be mindful of that. If you are someone that's maybe because obviously I know that the authors within this community is vast and varies. And so some of you may be writing for a business purpose, and some of you may be writing for a passion purpose. So maybe passion, and it may be from a business perspective. So there are various reasons why you may be wanting to become an author. Maybe it's credibility. You want to use it as a lead magnet. You want it for positioning, visibility, to become a speaker, data, advertisement, branding, sales, as a business card. There's numerous reasons why. For some people, it's to be able to become an authority. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, writing to become an authority, right? For some people, it's been a desire. It's been a desire to write a book and leave a legacy behind, something that will be here even after you've left this earth. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren will be able to hear your voice and get an understanding of who you were as an individual even after you've left there years after. I'm currently re-listening to a book by Napoleon Hill. I've never met the man, but he's making an impact, right? He's making an impact in my life because of the lessons and the nuggets that I'm learning from him. But he's not here. I've never met him, right? But what he has left behind is leaving a legacy, and it's leaving a message, and it's leaving lessons for you to be able to learn from. And so that's the same thing that you're doing when you're writing a book. So don't think of your book as being small. It's a powerful, powerful tool, right? So now, this is what I call the right author strategy. The right author strategy. And I use the acronym RIGHT. So when you're writing, you want to think about the who. Who is your ideal audience? Who is it that I'm writing for? Who would my story relate to? And I spoke about that already, so I won't dive into that anymore. But you really want to write that down. It's very good to have it written down. Who are the people that I want my book to really relate with? Who are the group of people that I want my book to relate with? Then you want to be doing your research. And you may be saying, but Michelle, I'm only writing my story. But even though you're writing your story, it's very good for you to really build on the experiences that you have had, right? And so sharing factual statements, sharing whether it even be statistics, all of those factual stuff is very good when you're writing a book, because then it's not just you writing based on your own life story or your own experience, but you're also now showing them, like, listen, I've done my work here. So for instance, let's say you're writing about mindset, for instance. Part of your story has to do with mindset, because you realize at some point in your journey, at some point in your story, you had to deal with the way that you think. You had to deal with your mindset, or the type of mindset that you had, right? Yes, you're going to obviously share your own nuggets, your own experiences, but to also give even more value, you can then go away and do a bit more research on it, and then deliver some powerful facts in there that backs up your argument. Sometimes I say writing a book is almost like you're going to court at times, right? Because you've made a statement and now you want to provide the facts that backs up that statement, right? So even if somebody was to say, but it's only her opinion, you have something that also backs up that opinion to prove that you know what you're talking about. Research could look simple as surveys. Research could look simple as, there's a tool, I don't know if any of you have used it before, but answerthepublic.com. Answerthepublic.com is a powerful tool that you can use. It's very powerful in the sense that it really allows questions to come up of what people are asking about the topic that you're writing on in Google. Yeah. So if you've never heard it, if you've never tried it before, it's a powerful tool for you to go away and try. Right? Answerthepublic.com. You can put any topic that you're going to be speaking on in your book. You can put it in, search, and it will come up with the main questions that people tend to ask around that topic. You want to look at the type of information that you want to share as well. There's many different ways. I know someone that she's currently writing a book right now, and she's created this big, massive metaphor story around fear. Right? And so she's really building information based around that. So even though in some point she's going to be putting her story in, the whole lineup of the story coming from the content coming from her story, she's done it in a way of a metaphor, right? And she's talking about fear. So you want to look at your information and how it is that you want to relay that information. Do you want to put stuff in there like images, to what do you really want your reader to get? Then time frame. I always say that a goal without a timeline is just a wish. You want to really keep yourself accountable, right? And obviously you have the group here as well, and Danny is obviously plugging a lot of things in it, and I believe that accountability is definitely one of them, right? So you really want to be looking at, what's my time frame? Put it out there. Let it challenge you to write that book, right? Don't leave it. Don't leave it till say, you know what, I'll publish it one day. I'll write it one day. No, challenge yourself. Keep yourself accountable. And that's why I believe in what's called the exit strategy. Now, the exit strategy is basically outlining everything that you want to highlight in the book. Every topic, every chapter, every subtitle that you want to highlight in the book, you want to write it out. Write it out. You can mind map it on the wall. I can't turn my camera around at this minute, but if you were to look at my wall, I love doing mind maps. And so my wall at the front has a lot of mind map information and little notes, sticky notes and all of that on my wall, right? So you really want to mind map. The reason how that will help you to be able to exit is because once you have covered everything that you have mind map, it's time to exit. And I say this to say because many times when individuals write and they're just releasing everything out and there's no framework, there's no plan, there's no strategy, sometimes people end up with an encyclopedia and then they struggle to try and cut it down. And then it might have taken you 6 months to write it, but it's taking you a year to cut it down because everything now seems important. Everything now seems valid. And so it's so much harder to navigate the content when you just splat everything out. And I know people say mind map. Some people say brain dump. Yes, even when you're brain dump, you need work with a framework. Brain dump with a framework, right? It's very, very important. Guys, again, if I'm going too fast, please do let me know. I'm just trying to give you as much information as possible, right? So we've already talked about, I touched on thinking about your audience. So think about who needs the content. Keep them in mind as you write, right? Keep them in mind as you write. And I'm going to go more into this in a few slides later, but you want to think about who your ideal reader is as you write. Because what you don't want to get carried away with is just writing and writing for yourself. Yes, you're the author, but you are not necessarily the reader, right? So you're not writing a book for just you to read. That's a journal. You're writing a book for an audience, a specific audience to read. And so you want to always write with them in mind. And remember, the purpose of the book is to both you and your audience. What is the purpose of the book? For your audience as well as for yourself. Yeah. So now let's look at content. We want to look at the message. Guys, are you still with me? Let me know if I'm going too fast. Just drop a thumbs up, something in the chat so that I can know that you are with me. And what I'm saying so far is all good. Kathy's thumbs up. Thank you very much, Kathy. Great. Yes to write. Faith said yes to writing to process my mess and clarify my message. I want to work through video recordings as I process them, write a book out of the process. That's a powerful way as well, right? So one of the things that you want to be mindful of and you want to know is that you can pull information from content that you already have from your social media posts. You'll be surprised after you finish collating all the information that you have all around, you would be surprised at the amount of content that you have. And it's such a good point because it ties right into this. I don't know if you've ever read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, right? Powerful book. It's only 96 pages long, 10,000 words. But yet it has been written in 37 languages. It's a bestseller. It sold over 30 million copies. Right? And has been stated as being one of the most powerful books ever written. One of the most powerful books ever written. I'm going to read it again this year. I've read it twice. I'm going to read it again this year. Right? Powerful book. When they wrote the story, the outline of the story, even though it's talking about mice and etc., there's such a powerful meaning behind the concept of this book. And so even though it was 96 pages and 10,000 words, the message was conveyed in such a way that it sold over 30 million copies because it got to the readers. Readers could relate with it. They could relate with the message. They could relate with the stumbling blocks. They could relate with the breakthroughs. They could relate, right? And so this is why it's so important to have clarity on what your message is, what your core message is going to be from your book. Even if it is that you're writing about your story, there's a core message there, guys. Yeah. So as we know, a book is segmented into 3 sections. You have your front matter, and you have your body and your back matter. The front matter is like your disclaimer, your copyright, your introduction, dedication, all of that jazz. Your body is now the main meat of it. It's the message, right? It's the message in the book. Your back matter is normally, for some people, you can switch it around, but for some people, it's the about the author section. It's the acknowledgement section, right? And all of that jazz. It's a call to actions section. So your CTA, right? And so breaking it down into these 3 areas really helps you to formulate your framework, right? And so we're going to be diving into the body of the book. So the meat of the book, the content, the message that you want to convey. If you are writing a business book, you want to obviously focus on the needs, desires, and pain points of your potential client. So if your book is a expert positioning book, means that you're writing that book solely to showcase your story and business, then you want to make sure that the chapters that you're covering, the subtitles that you're covering, addresses the needs, desires, and pain points of your clients. So I always say to an individual, if they're writing a business book, start writing out what are some of the pains that your clients go through. What are some of the things that you help them with? What are some of the solutions that you provide them with, right? So for instance, my book that's titled Authority, How to Write a Business Book and Use It as a Marketing Tool for Your Business, my framework that I showed you before, the overall framework, those headings or the headings of my modules are the main chapters of my book. The steps that I take my clients through beneath each module is then my subtitles of my book. If you're writing a book about your story, you want to then look at what are the pains that you went through. So what is your NDP? Because then if you're writing for somebody that the story will relate to, by you writing about your NDP, your needs, desires, and pain points that you went through, and the solution and what helped you, it automatically will relate to the reader that you want to attract. Yeah, so that is very, very important. It's a very good way to flesh out your story. Very powerful way to flesh out your story. And this is what I'm talking about. So for instance, if you're writing your story, I love to talk about it as the peaks, the mountains, right? And the peaks and troughs of our life, right? So we all have gone through peaks and troughs in our life. When writing a story, you don't just want to go troughs, then one peak, right? You really want to keep your reader engaged in your book. A powerful way of doing your story. So even if you're writing a business book, your first chapter should really be your story. Your introduction needs to be addressing what I call the stay and pay positioning. So it's talking about the pains, talking about the gains, and then talking about the bridging the gap. How will the reader get from point A to point B, right? When you're looking at your story, you want to address the problem in the story. What is the problem? And you can even, you'll have this so you can rewatch it. Put your sticky notes or mind map. Put the word problem. What are some of the problems that I experience in my story that I want to address? Who are the characters? Who is the nemesis? Who is the sage? Who is the lover? Who are the people that I'm going to put as characters in my book? Am I going to mention them? Right? Am I going to allow dialogue to come through in my story when I'm showcasing my story? Dialogue is a powerful way of sharing your story as well, so that it's not just pure narration. Another good way of telling your story, surprisingly, is in present tense. So for instance, if you're writing a tri-summit story, an expert positioning story, whereas you're doing your business book, And the first chapter in your book is going to be about your story. A powerful way of writing it is in present tense. It's actually like you're reliving the moment so that they can relive it with you. Yeah. You want to then look at any lost temporary wins, etc. You want to also look at what delay, denial, or distraction I experienced in my journey. What was my catalyst moment or breakthrough, right? Within the catalyst moment or breakthrough, this is where you can now be sharing advice or nuggets or tips about what helped you to experience or have this catalyst moment. What is the insight that you learned from the situation? And what is the decision? Whoops, spelling error. What is the decision that you made based on the insight that you had? Because these are now learning points as well for your reader. You want to look at the result. You want to look at the lessons, the advice, the tips that you can share, the takeaways. What are some profound statements or questions or quotes that you can make the reader stop and think about? Very, very powerful. Some people really love quotes, right? This is an opportunity for you as well to utilize your book to share and create your own quotes. Yeah, very important. So this is one of the things that I like doing. I like mapping out my chapters and what it looks like. And so it comes again from the needs, desires, and pain points, right? So when you've done your main chapter or written down what your main chapter is going to be about, below that now, you want to now be asking yourself questions, right? What are some of the things that needs to be highlighted? So for instance, if I am talking about coming back to mindset, one of the things that I would be writing down, if my chapter was mindset, I would be writing down beliefs, right? Talking about beliefs. Some of what could come up in beliefs is like, what was my past experience? What were some of the things that I realized affected my belief? For instance, I would be then writing about how being told I was ugly, being told all of these different things by this man, being beaten on, how it affected my belief in myself, right? And then what was I able to do to get past that? What were the things that, because you have to be thinking along the lines of the reader. If I said that to the reader, that I was able to overcome that belief, the next thing that the reader is going to want to ask me is how, or what did you do, right? So this is where I always say that questions triggers content. Very, very important, guys. Questions triggers content. Write down as many questions that you think your reader could ask you. If you've written a paragraph, look back at it and say, if I was reading this paragraph, what are the questions I would want to ask the author? What are some of the questions I would want to ask the author, right? Because it's so important. Questions triggers content. And that will really, really help you to flesh out information. Writing to become an authority is about giving enough information for the readers to recognize you as an expert or as somebody that knows enough about the topic that they're writing about. Yeah, that is very, very important. If you want to be positioned as an authority, can my reader look back at this and actually say, yeah, I have knowledge of this topic, especially if you're someone that wants to become a speaker on the topic, you want to really expand on that topic, you want to create a business around your story, you really want to be targeting this area. Thinking about what are some of the questions that, if I was the reader, what are some of the questions I would want to ask myself? What are some of the questions I would actually want to ask the author? If I was sitting down with that author right now and really, really go to hammering away at the questions, because the questions will trigger content. You want to make sure that you have a hook. And I'm going to end here because I think my time is up. You want to really be writing by having a hook. When you're introducing your chapters, have a hook. When you're writing your introduction, have a hook. Start with a hook, a statement or question that captures the reader's attention. They want to read more. They want to know more, right? And you really want to trickle that all the way through your writing, right? The hook needs to paint a picture or tell a story before you introduce your content. It makes them want to know more about you, the reader. They want to know more about what's going to happen next. You want it to be a page turner, and it must relate to the topic that you're discussing, right? One of the things that I did as my hook, like a sample hook, for your audience, is I almost killed that girl. Yeah. I believe I started one of my chapters. I started it by saying I almost killed that girl. And by saying that, so many interviews I've gone on, so many talks I've done, and people have asked me, what did I mean about that statement? Or I've gone on a podcast and they've asked me, tell me more about this. I was actually on a podcast yesterday, and when I said that, the lady said, I need to hear more about this. How comes we're coming to the end of the podcast and you didn't say this? How can you say that now? Right? Say things that will really spike an interest, not just to your reader, but something that you know that you'll be able to use even later on. Again, it boils down to what you want the book to do for you. And that's why it's very important to have that clarity from the beginning. If you want to do speaking, you want to do podcasts, you want to get visibility for what it is that you're doing. You want to make sure that you're putting messages in there that you could then go on and use in other places. My first book, I covered about one of my chapters spoke about overcoming challenges. One of my first events that I spoke at was a property event. Before I started property investing, I was not doing property investing, knew nothing about properties, but I was asked to speak at a property event. Why? Because one of my chapters spoke about overcoming challenges. And so business people go through challenges. And so when I spoke about overcoming challenges, I spoke about how I overcame my challenge, but then I shared strategies on how other people can overcome their challenges. And so that opened the doors to so many other things. But I do hope that I was able to share enough content to help you. I do have time. Obviously, if you guys have questions or if you want me to speak about anything else or speak more on anything else, please do let me know. But I only created this because I know that my time was limited. So let me just stop sharing and then I can see the screen.
Seems like Michelle pressed the wrong button. She might be coming back. We will see. What did you guys think of that? Was it helpful?
It was helpful, but now I feel overwhelmed again. Now I'm like, now, because my hurdle is trying to overcome, like, I don't know, thinking about others, what others want. So then now it's like back to now I have to think really about what others. So it's a little overwhelming, but it's good though. It's making me think and stuff.
Yeah, and I like how she mentioned that, but it's like you have to remember that you don't want to lose yourself by appeasing everyone else in that sense. You're still doing this for yourself and others. It's just she's mentioning that it's good to think of your ideal targeted audience that you want this to go to. And so it's good to think like if you were that reader and you were in that kind of frame of mind and everything, what would you want to see in that book? And so it just gives you another way of looking at how you should write it. And then some of the things that maybe you thought weren't that important actually would be very important towards the reader. And she's back.
Yeah, sorry guys. I was closing close the whole thing. I don't know what's going on with me tonight, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But anyone have any questions? I think a few of them said that they can't really talk so much.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. If they want to drop it in the comment section, that's fine. I missed the first bit of what Kathy had mentioned. I came back. Yeah,
she was saying that she was happy to get this information, but she felt a little overwhelmed. I don't know if you wanted to go in depth a little bit, Kathy, and tell her.
Oh yeah, I was just saying like my hurdle is like writing this book. I've been thinking so much about other people, and then I talked to Danny, and Danny's like, well, just kind of brain dump and just write stuff down. But then now I heard it again and I'm like, oh dang, so I do have to go and start thinking about what others think, and I guess that's a little bit overwhelming for me. I don't know.
It's easy to sorry, I keep saying that, not easy, but a simple way of doing it is doing it bit by bit. And instead of thinking of it as a whole staircase, think of it
Mhm.
as one step at a time. And so the first bit that you would want to start is, okay, who do I actually need to hear from? Because you don't necessarily need to hear from everyone, but
Yeah.
who are the people that I actually need to hear from? And then you can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to set myself a goal to maybe, I guess, communicate with 2 different sets of people within a space of a week, right? A good way, as I mentioned before, the good to answerthepublic.com is a very good tool, because without even speaking to people, you can get an idea of the type of people that are going to, that you're targeting to read your book. They're Googling, right? Google is the people's best friend these days. And so answerthepublic.com really throws a lot of questions out of what people are asking around your topic. And so I guess when you're thinking about people that you want to speak to, i.e., is that clients, is that family members?
Clients, I guess maybe this is why I feel overwhelmed too, is because I'm not super clear on who this would be for. I guess I was just thinking more of like, it's more of a concept. I think I told Danny about it, but it's more of a concept of like helping other people.
Okay.
But the specific, I think I really have to sit down to figure out the target market of who I am talking to. In general, it's about having like a growth mindset in a way, but it's about taking care of yourself, loving yourself in a sense. So, but then it correlates a lot with women's health because that's my story and that's my journey. So would I talk more about, or would my target market be more geared towards women since that's my story, if that makes sense? But
Yeah, it
I
sounds like that.
don't wide or more for everybody, if that makes sense. So I think that's why I feel overwhelmed.
Yeah. So, oh, go ahead, Danny.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know that when we had our one-on-one and we talked about this, I got the feeling that your book would be great for your specific clients because it's the BS that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this could help so many people. And what I thought of when you said all that stuff to me was like, this would be great for clients because these are people that are going to read your story and they're going to be like, ooh, I want to have more of a hands-on, a one-on-one with her so I can learn more in depth on this topic. That's just what I got.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely right. So that sounds definitely like an expert positioning book.
Okay.
It's an expert positioning book. And so then you're writing with your clients in mind. And you can do survey monkeys, you can do it on your socials, you can put stuff out. It doesn't have to be like encyclopedia library sort of overwhelmed sort of vibe. You can make it actually fun. There's so many ways that you can actually make it fun. Yeah. So you can do survey monkeys. You can literally obviously get in touch with clients and just ask them a few questions, ask them if they don't mind answering. You can put stuff out on social media, your LinkedIn post, whatever social media you're on. And it's very simple steps of just getting information in simple ways. I think for the first book, I even interviewed some people at one point. Yeah, because I didn't mind doing it. I enjoyed it. And what then happened is that they were keen on then advertising the book when the book came out because they've been mentioned in there, right? So those are little tricks that you can use as well, right? So when you're writing an expert positioning book, you want to realize that you're putting marketing messages in there. So even though you're doing a book that is delivering content, you're still doing things that's delivering marketing messages. Because think about it, your potential, because remember, even though you're writing for clients, you're writing for potential clients as well, right?
Yeah.
So the person that has not yet worked with you, when they get the book, can they say, you know what, I actually can relate with Kathy's story. Not only can I relate with her, she knows her stuff, right? Because, and this is where the NDP comes in very handy. If I am somebody that's in need of a toilet, Bob roll, sorry, I have to have a tissue because of my nose, right? If I'm in need of a tissue and I'm not finding out how I can get this tissue, if I read a book and somebody, the person that's written the book is telling me the steps of how to get that tissue, I'm going to be inclined to want to spend my money with that person because I'm going to be like, I've been waiting to hear this for a long time. And sometimes in our mind, we go, but other people have written about it. Yes, but they relate with your story.
Mm.
Yeah. And that is the power of the difference. Like, and that's just how it is. Some people will relate with Danny more. Some people will relate with me more. People will relate with and it just there's so many people in this world that needs help, especially health wise.
Yes. Yes, I believe that. That's so helpful. Thank you. That makes it less overwhelming. And to kind of understand like, what type of book it would be for makes it less overwhelming as well,
Yes.
So talking to you experts helps, because I never even thought of an expert position book for my clients. Like, wait, what? But that makes sense. It does make total sense.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sweet. Well, I mean, I let you talk more than I should have, but that's okay. I loved hearing what you had to say, and I felt like it was very valuable for everyone to hear, especially since some of the topics that you talked about are things that I've already talked about, but I like how it's done from a different perspective. So they get to see it through someone else's eyes, and it might click easier hearing it from you than from how I see it.
Yeah. But more importantly, it solidifies that you know your stuff.
Hey,
Yeah, your stuff.
thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Cool. Well,
I was
I
going to
guess
say this has been really good information. Thank you so much.
yeah, I'm glad that it was. Michelle knows her stuff. I'm really happy that she was down to talk today.